back again. It's the Horror Guys.
Running a little late this week again.
I blame you.
I do too.
Anyway, we're at episode 132, aren't we?
132 big ones, yes.
And we're here to talk about some horror movies and a short.
I'll bet there's 4 movies.
There's 4 movies and a short.
But only 3 titles this time.
Yeah, how does that work? Yeah, well,
because we're
some
going to be
movies
watching.
are so good, they make them again.
Yeah, they do. And, of course, we watch them both.
Yes.
All right, well, this week we'll be watching the more classics. Going to watch some new films. We're going to watch Jacob's Wife and Censor, both from 2021.
Brand new.
And a couple of oldies, The Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
One older and one not as old.
One from 1956, one from 1978, and I think at this point they're both considered old.
And I saw the 1978 at the theater.
Yeah, so did I.
And I still have a hard time coming to grips with how long ago that was. Like 1978.
43 years ago.
43 years? It can't be that long ago.
We're old.
But, yeah, there it is. I didn't see the original when it came out.
The Invasion of the Body Snatchers. Which one? The old one or the new one?
Yeah.
Which new one?
I remember my folks telling about seeing the original when it came out and creeping them out.
Okay. Yeah, actually, I think this was the first time I've seen the original 56 version.
Oh, okay.
I had not seen the original before.
I had seen it when I was a kid.
Yeah, I saw the 78 version several times, but not the old one.
Yeah.
And it was quite good.
So we should talk about them.
First thing, before we get into it,
what?
I'm going to give all 4 movies a thumbs up.
I will too. Spoiler. Yeah, they were all good.
Yeah, they were all good this week, and the short was good, which we'll tell you about later.
Yeah, all 5 we'd recommend.
No losers this week.
No, not this week.
All right.
Some we liked better, but they're all winners.
Well, yeah, there's always better and worse, but they're all worth watching. They're all good this time.
You betcha.
Which is not a common thing for us. We usually trash something. All right. Well, and of course, don't forget horrorguys.com/books to pick up our fantastic assortment of fiction and nonfiction books.
You betcha. Get
and
one
of course,
each.
Just go to horrorguys.com, and up in the top right, there's a little sign-in box to join our mailing list. Every time we post a new review, you'll get a copy or an announcement in your mail.
And eventually we're going to get some book reviews on there, too, besides the movie reviews.
You keep saying that.
I keep saying that.
Books take a long time.
I keep reading books and not writing a review.
You can watch a movie in an hour and a half and write a review not too long after that. A book
takes a little more time.
Well, I'm a slow reader. It takes me a week for a book at least. So, yeah, I don't think the books are ever going to take over the movies.
Not as fast, no.
Yeah. All right, well, first up, we've got Jacob's Wife. So have you seen Jacob's Wife?
I have seen Jacob's Wife.
All right. From 2021, directed by Travis Stevens, written by Kathy Charles, Mark Steensland, and Travis Stevens.
Now, this is horror with a touch of science fiction because it's set in a parallel universe where people attend high school well into their 20s.
High school?
Yeah.
Who's in high school?
The high schoolers, the kids, the quote-unquote kids.
There's kids in this?
Yeah, they were teenagers. I quote teenagers.
Oh, that girl in the beginning?
And the guy and her guy, yeah. Well, and she's in it more later too.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't picture her as teenager. Just
young adult. She totally was a quote teenager.
Well, if you ever want to annoy
so was her
Kevin,
boyfriend.
Put a 25-year-old in as a teenager in your film.
Not saying she wasn't a fine actress and good in that role, but she's not a teenager.
Okay. Speaking of actors and actresses, it stars Barbara Crampton, Larry Fessenden, Bonnie Aarons, hour 38 minutes. I think it's on Shudder. Maybe it was Amazon. It's streaming.
Yes, I think this was Shudder.
All right. And you liked it?
Yeah, yep.
Yeah, we
did.
both liked it.
Uh-huh.
All right, well, we open. Well, first of all, you got the name there, Jacob's Wife.
It's spelled with a K.
Yeah. How often do you talk about somebody's wife as an important person? Usually you would say her name, right?
Well, that's kind of the culture that this movie takes place in.
Exactly, yeah.
Women are very secondary. She's a very subservient role that she's living, and And in the community, that's probably how she's generally thought of.
Well, Jacob is a pastor. So we're talking
community leader,
Christian religion, community
in
leader.
A conservative little town.
And it's his wife, standing in his shadow.
Jacob's wife.
Being the quiet, supportive wife.
She does have a name, Anne.
She does have a name, which we don't learn right away.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we open with Pastor Jakob Feder giving a sermon to a very sparsely crowded church. I noticed right away there was very few people in there. I thought maybe because he wasn't very good, but we learn later that's just the way the town is.
Yeah.
He's giving a sermon on husbands and wives, and his own wife, Anne, tunes him out halfway through. She's heard it all before. Emily tells them that her mother has started drinking again. Could they talk to her tomorrow? And the camera follows Emily home, and we see that it's a very small town. It gets dark on the way, and she's frightened by some rats in the middle of the road. Someone whispers, "Amelia," but no one is there. Someone grabs her from behind. My review seems to be suffering from autocorrect syndrome. Is it Emily or Amelia?
Oh, I will look and tell you. Because right offhand I can't remember. Amelia.
It is Amelia. Okay.
Amelia.
I didn't think Emily sounded right.
Yeah, Amelia. And she's one of the, quote, teenagers.
Yeah. Okay. Well, next morning, the sheriff comes by as Amelia never made it home. Carol and Bob, Jacob's brother, come over for dinner, and they all speculate where Amelia may have gone. Uh-oh. Kid in the neighborhood's disappeared.
Uh-huh.
Anne seems really distracted and unhappy. Tom Lowe, her old boyfriend, is coming to town to work on a renovation project that Anne is involved with. We can see that she's got hopes for Tom well beyond any kind of construction project. As she gets all fixed up for their date, a meeting.
She gussies up a bit, yeah. Yeah, it's pretty clear that she's thinking that way, yeah.
When asked about Jacob, she sighs and says, "Oh, we're happy." Very unconvincingly.
Yeah.
Then she and Tom go to the job site and kiss. Smoochies. Wait, she's married to the preacher? And uh-oh. Then they hear something downstairs in the darkness making noise, and they go down to see what it is. There are boxes there that are newly arrived. Large crates. Tom was there just the other day, and those boxes weren't there.
Huh.
They start making out like teenagers. She can't go through with it, though, and pulls away.
Yeah, she's too loyal to him.
Yep. Conscience strikes. Something in the box they're sitting in thumps, though. There's someone in there.
Or something.
No, it's hundreds and hundreds of rats, and they all attack Tom. As Anne turns to run, someone is behind her. Ooh, jump scare.
Gotcha.
Jacob is calling around looking for Anne when she finally gets home. She says things went fine. She stands in front of the mirror, and she's covered in blood. Went fine.
Yeah, it went great, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of humor in this.
There is.
It doesn't start out particularly funny, but it devolves into humor very quickly.
Yeah, there's a lot of dark humor in it.
Yeah. Next morning, she says she's not hungry and doesn't make Jacob breakfast, which he takes as a sign something isn't right. She's supposed to be making him breakfast. That's the wife's job.
That's one of her jobs, yeah.
Whatever he suspects, that ain't it. When he returns home that afternoon, all the curtains have been drawn shut, and Anne is dressed up, all in red, and she wants to go out.
We're going out.
They go to a nice restaurant.
She's telling him what to do.
They go to a nice place, but she doesn't eat anything.
But she does.
She watches him eat his steak very carefully.
It's a rare steak, and she's liking the look of that.
Next morning, she goes to the grocery and wants to buy a bunch of blood from the butcher. That really hits the spot for her, and she finally looks happy. She dances around the house.
For a while.
Yeah. She dances around the house with a big glass of blood in her hand. Then she starts moving the furniture around, and she's really strong.
Yeah, that was a neat scene how they've done that.
She's doing her dancing and cleaning and
lifts up the couch with one hand. Yeah, just casually. Yeah.
But then she pukes it all up onto the carpet.
Animal blood will not do.
No.
Yeah.
Jacob goes to see Bob and Carol, and he explains his marital issues to them. Bob recommends finding Tom Lowe and sending him a message. That evening, she sees the creature standing out in her backyard, the thing that made her. He makes her do things to herself. Until Jacob
he.
catches her. Well, it looks like a he, though. I
At
would have
that
assumed,
point, Yeah, but as we see it's referred to in the credits as
it's
master.
a she, yes.
Yeah. At first you assume, of course, it's a male Dracula, a vampire, it's always a man. And then you see it more and more
kind of look going on there.
Yes, very Nosferatu-ish,
yes.
and more androgynous the more you see them, and then you realize, it's not a guy, it's a female, all powerful, that's a rarity.
Yeah.
To see, that role being cast
Never
by a
seen
woman.
a female Nosferatu before.
Yeah, the super powerful vampire who's,
Okay, it makes her do things to herself until Jacob catches her. The next morning, Anne eats worms from the garden. Living food tastes better. The dentist says Anne has new teeth coming in, growing behind her regular teeth. The dentist turns on the ultraviolet tooth whitening machine, and Anne starts to smoke as it burns her lips off.
Whoops.
Yeah. The ultraviolet tooth whitening thing, that's a real thing?
That is a real thing, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and that too much direct ultraviolet on a vampire. Yeah, it don't work.
Well, nobody said vampire yet.
Well, nobody's used the V word. But
it's
you can see where
obvious
that's
what it's
headed.
going to be.
Yeah,
yeah.
the sunlight doesn't burn her, but it bothers her. You can tell.
Well, the ultraviolet sure.
Concentrated.
She
right
didn't
on
need
her
those
skin.
lips anyway.
Yeah.
Jacob goes to the construction site looking for Tom, and Tom's car is still there. He finds two annoying teenagers, in quotes, one of whom is killed and eaten right in front of him by Amelia. She's a vampire now, and she says her master is at his house. Jacob and the annoying girl, Ellie, escape from Amelia. Meanwhile, Anne is crying over her ruined face at home when the main creature comes for her. The neighbor sees her flailing around inside and goes over to see if she's okay. She slices his throat with a knife and then pulls his head back like a Pez dispenser.
Slurps it down, which heals her lips right up.
Oh yeah, she's normal again.
Yeah.
Jacob gets home in time to witness it all. It wasn't me, she lies. Of course it was you.
As she's literally over the body.
Yeah. With blood running down her face.
Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't me.
Well, the master made her do it. Yeah. She is being influenced heavily.
Well, she tells him everything, and he cleans up the mess. The sheriff comes around, saying there's been lots of trouble up at the mill. The neighbor gets up, not really dead, and Jacob stakes him to death. Yeah, right behind the sheriff. Jacob thinks killing the master will revert Anne to what she was before, but Anne doesn't look too thrilled with the idea. The two of them bicker all the way to the mill.
Yeah, she's definitely mixed on it.
Yeah.
She's unhappy with her life, and the master has given her a peek of what life could be like, and she's not sure that she wants to.
There's definite pluses and minuses to being a vampire.
Yeah, especially in her case. She's definitely mixed on it.
Jacob shoots Amelia with a squirt bottle full of holy water, and then Anne stakes her. Well, no more annoying non-teenagers. The two argue, and Jacob says Anne brought this all on herself. Then he drives off, leaving her there. Anne eventually finds a ride home to find that the master has visited Jacob. The master asks why Anne puts up with Jacob now that she's different. The master tells Anne that she needs to decide between her and Jacob. Anne and Jacob have rough sex on the floor, and she chooses him.
Yep. Decision made.
Yeah. Through the whole thing, you're not quite sure where he stands. Mm-hmm. In the beginning, he comes off as one of those little southern religious fanatic type guys.
And kind of jerky.
He's the boss of her. But he ends up
being really on her side. And
the roles switch.
Eventually. Yeah. And he believes in her, and he ends up being a decent fella.
Yeah. Well, they get a phone call and go to see Maddie. They go over there armed with stakes and a mallet. But Maddie's dead, but is not a vampire. They drag Maddie's body out, and it's like a blood-filled carry-out order. Mm-hmm. Just some old lady who died on her own. One of the neighbors reports him to the police, and Anne takes Maddie to the kitchen to drain her of blood, while Jacob goes to the mill to find the master. Jacob gets pulled over by the sheriff. They open up his trunk to find the book Dracula, along with rope, holy water, stakes, and a mallet. It's a vampire hunter's toolkit.
Good luck explaining that.
Meanwhile, Bob and Carol come over for lasagna night and find Anne draining the body of blood. Oops.
Awkward.
They call the police too. The master then kills them both. Anne asks the master what she wants, but the master turns that around and asks her what she wants.
What do you want? Yeah.
No one ever asked her that before. I want to live a bigger life, Anne says. The police arrive and shoot the master, which does nothing. But then Jakob sneaks up and stakes her as she monologues.
Yeah, the master, I mean, she's so powerful. She could have totally won this situation, killed them all. But she is
trying
cocky,
to help Anne.
And she's trying to help Anne, and she's monologuing and distracted with that. And yeah, Jakob manages to sneak in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, she dies hard and quite messily. The police say they'll pretend it didn't happen, but it needs to end tonight. We didn't see nothing. So what do they do now? Anne doesn't want to be cured, but she wants to make her own decisions now. They're going to sell the house and just vanish somewhere. Can the two of them make it work?
Yeah, killing the master didn't revert Anne.
No,
as they were thinking. But yeah, she was still a vampire. But she had it under control.
So Anne still killed the neighbor, the next door neighbor.
Yeah.
And the police just going to pretend that, now it's an unsolved murder?
I guess so.
Yeah, that's one. the people at the mill, they could blame on the master. No problem.
Yeah.
Anne killed the neighbor.
Kill the neighbor. Yeah.
Uh-huh. Oh, well. It's not listed as a comedy, but there's a lot of funny parts to this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it's not super obvious right away that it's a story about vampires, but that gets cleared up pretty quickly. And I noticed in one of the Shudder or wherever it was, Facebook groups, people kept saying, what do these rats have to do with anything?
That's one of the...
That goes all the way back to Bram
the original
Stoker.
Dracula.
Yeah, he
Bram
could
Stoker.
he controlled
Creatures
rats
of the
things.
night. Yeah. Uh-huh.
So yeah, I mean, they don't focus on rats in a lot of the newer movies, but rats are a thing.
Yeah, and she controls them big time. Yeah.
There's a lot of female empowerment ideas presented here, as opposed to the whole biblical woman obey the man narrative. It's clear that in the beginning, Anne has spent many years in the shadow of her community leader husband, and as the title says, she's not Anne, she's Jacob's wife, which isn't much of a personal identity. Anne and Jakob have a dysfunctional marriage before the film, and it's even weirder afterwards, but at least they have a chance of working things out as equals. Only now, Jakob is motivated to not be too overbearing, or she'll eat him.
That's right. Yeah, it does balance the relationship somewhat.
The makeup effects and cinematography are excellent. All the actors are longtime pros, and the script is really funny, and I like this one a lot.
And you know what I just noticed?
What's that?
The actress who plays the master, Bonnie Aarons, she was the nun in The Conjuring and the Nun book.
She's
the
very
nun
tall
movies.
and thin.
Yeah.
I bet she plays a lot of monsters. Just the nun?
Just the nun, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, maybe some of these others are. There's other roles I don't recognize. Crackhead Bonnie is one of her roles in something called The Fighter.
Okay, now, on the feminism topic,
Yeah.
I think they did really well with this one.
Yeah,
it was really clear and it was really obvious, and
I'd say
us
that
two
she has
guys are fine with it. It made sense.
I'd say that she has a history of weird roles. Here's one. She's spastic fiend. Oh, spastic friend, number one. Yeah. She's the bum. She's prophet woman.
Yeah.
Anyway. But yeah, female empowerment.
Female empowerment is done really well here. And there's one we're going to review
coming up.
I don't know if it's next week or the week after, called Lucky.
Where I don't think they handled female
it was just
empowerment very well.
It was maybe the worst movie I've seen this year.
They hammer you over the head with female empowerment.
Yes, not in a good way.
Yeah. I didn't think they handled it gracefully or skillfully in that one.
So there's a preview and an upcoming episode. The movie Lucky from 2021. We hated it.
Hate's such a strong word. I didn't hate it.
It was good up to the end.
Yeah.
The resolution sucked. But that a review for another time.
Yeah. But anyway, Jacob's wife really handled that well.
Alrighty. And our other brand new movie for this week is called Censor.
A New Zealand film.
Oh, yeah. I kept thinking it took place in England, but you're right, it's New Zealand. Which is weird. Directed by Prano Bailey Bond.
And it's interesting watching a movie like that with, New Zealand is primarily English speaking, And primarily, society, technology, everything is, generally like us. But everything seems a little off when you watch a movie like that. Just little differences. There's so many little things, just ordinary little day-to-day things that are different.
What was the one we watched a few weeks ago, South Africa? Fried Berry.
Fried Berry.
Same kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Modern times, but a little alien
just
because it took place in a weird, different place.
Yeah, yeah. And this whole thing has that whole feel to it, too. Plus, it's set in the past a little bit.
Yeah, videotape days.
It's not quite current.
I guess probably. They don't specify it, but early 80s.
VHS technology is the big thing. Yeah.
All right, written by Prano Bailey Bond and Anthony Fletcher. Stars Niam, Algar, Michael Smiley, Nicholas Burns. Hour and 24 minutes. And I believe this is also probably Shudder. We really need to get an affiliate thing for Shudder.
We should, yeah.
They don't do it, unfortunately. But yeah, we strongly recommend Shudder. We don't get anything for that, but they got a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, it's a very reasonable subscription.
And Amazon also has a lot of good horror films. Amazon
Prime.
And Netflix, not so much. It's like Netflix doesn't really try anymore.
They got some, but yeah. Shudder, I think, for horror is the winner.
Shudder for first, Amazon Prime second, and
Shudder has a lot of exclusives that are only on Shudder, and
some of them are good.
Well,
some of them aren't.
A lot of them are, yeah, and then all kinds of classic stuff, documentaries and series. Yeah, Shudder's a winner.
Plus, it's one of those subscriptions where you watch it for a month and turn it off.
Oh, it's very easy.
Come back in a couple months.
Very
and
easy
turn it back.
to start it and stop it. They make it very easy. It's user friendly for that. Yeah.
Yeah, we have turned off Shudder for a few months when we get on some big series or something, and then we bring it back, and it's nice.
Yeah.
And it's not that expensive. It's no HBO.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, so Censor. We open on a crying girl in a horror film, running through the woods, screaming as she's pulled into the grave. But then, the film rewinds slowly, and then the viewer complains about the gross decapitation screen. What? Turns out, Enid, the character we're seeing now, is a film censor, and she's very specific and thorough in her job.
On the ratings board.
Yeah, the man sitting next to her compares the intestinal tug-of-war and the snipping off of the end of the genitals with Shakespeare and Homer. Classic tropes.
Oh, yes.
Snipping off the genitals. I mean, that's straight from Shakespeare there. Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, the intestinal tug-of-war, whew, that could have been from Homer.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, she thinks some things are best left to the imagination. And we see many bloody, gory scenes as the credits roll.
And this was a time, I mean, more so back then. They're still around and stuff. They called them video nasties, where there were studios that would just crank out these raunchiest, goriest, scenes of rape and incest and gore at the same time as sex. And
were they really that bad, though?
Oh, yeah. They were. Yeah, just a lot of horrible, and that's what, video nasties was a thing. Yeah. And I think it was more of a European thing than in the United States.
Which is odd, because the United States is usually a lot more puritanical.
Yeah. New Zealand, Australia, Britain, for some reason. Those seem to be the real hot spots for it. But this was a thing, and this was the era when those were at their prime, their peak, I guess.
Well, it's also a matter of, different tastes in Europe compared to the United States. The United States, you show your boobie, and oh my gosh, it's a wardrobe malfunction.
Yeah, and in a European film, if you don't show a boobie, like, what's wrong with this movie?
But in America, you show somebody getting their head blown off with a shotgun, and
well, that's okay.
Look at that cool gore.
Yeah,
but in Europe, you even show a gun, you can be in trouble sometimes.
The ratings are different. Yeah,
yeah, just different standards.
Yeah. So this was, basically she's deciding, her and her board,
which films get through.
Does this get mainstream release, or is this going to just be an underground film because we're not going to give it an official release or official rating?
Or sometimes they send it back for cutting.
Yeah. Or, cut this scene, and we'll. Yeah.
And these things still happen today.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so this one takes place back when videotape technology was new and the system was still changing. Normally, you go to the theater and you see a bloody thing happen on the thing, you continue on and you have to keep going. But here, children could rewind the gory bits and watch them over and over again, which was a major concern. Video nasties are making the newspaper headlines. So after a hard day of watching splatter films, Enid walks home and checks her answering machine. She gets a message about having dinner with her parents, and they show her the death certificate for Enid's missing sister Nina. It's been years and years, but her parents need to give up the search.
Yeah, they want the closure, and Enid's not on board with that.
No. Enid goes through her old papers, and we see newspaper clippings telling about Enid's 7-year-old sister who went missing long ago. Her job, now, is to watch film after film of women being murdered and beaten up. And it disturbs her work partner, but Enid can deal with it all.
Well, that's not just her job, but, so many of them are coming through like that.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
She still has flashbacks about the night her sister vanished. Well, then there's a real-life murder where the man killed his wife and ate her face, and a journalist has linked this crime to the film Deranged, which Enid passed a few months ago.
And the media
Copycat.
goes with it. The media takes that to town.
Oh, yeah, they do.
Yeah.
Well, the same thing with the face eating happened in that movie. It's a fictional movie, but yeah. They're possibly going to try to blame the murder on the film, and the boss seems to think that Enid may be letting too many films through the system.
Yeah, and he wants to know, exactly what your thought process was with releasing this movie, and
Because
tell
they
me
scrutinize
your notes
everything.
and your thoughts, and
Yeah.
we really gotta.
It wouldn't surprise me if this wasn't based on something historical at this point.
Well, there have
I'm
been
sure things
movies
like
in
that
the
have
past.
happened.
There have been movies in the past where that's happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They get in a new Frederick North film called Don't Go in the Church. Enid meets Doug, the producer of the film, and he's kind of a creep. There are 2 little girls in the woods, which are eerily similar to the experience Enid really had. One sister hacks up the other with an axe, which visibly disturbs the otherwise unflappable Enid and causes some nightmares later that evening. The next morning, she goes looking for more information on Frederick North, and she goes to a video store and looks for his older films, but most of them have been banned in her country. Well, she can out-talk the clerk on gore films, which really impresses him.
Yeah, it does.
Nobody knows
Yeah.
horror films like the video store clerk.
He's got some of those underground ones that she saw,
Yeah.
but didn't get released, and I thought that was fun.
Well, he's impressed, so he lets her rent some of his hidden banned films. He gives her one called Asunder, which stars actress Alice Lee, who resembles the maybe-not-so-dead Nina, which also triggers some dreams. Enid tracks down Doug and goes to his house. She recognizes parts of his house from some of his films. She asks him what Frederick North looks like, and Doug says the man is brilliant. Could Doug be North?
You do wonder.
He says this new film that they're shooting now will probably be Alice's last film, as she's coming to the end of her shelf life. What does that mean? Doug tries to rape her, and she pushes him onto one of his awards, one of the pointy ones.
And she is suddenly living in a real-life horror movie.
Yeah. Well, she steals Frederick North's confidential information from work and goes to his trailer in the woods. She meets Debbie, who explains, "I'll be doing your makeup." She's in the right
You
place.
look different than I expected, but
Right
you'll
place,
be okay.
right time, right in the middle of a new shoot. Yeah. This film is going to be the sequel to the one with the 2 little sisters. Enid is going to play one of the sisters, and Alice will be the other. They all wonder where Doug is, but they can't wait for him. She asks Frederick North about Alice and the first film. He explains that it was inspired by a true story. "All of my ideas are drawn from real life," he says.
Yeah, because he's an artist. And
He's a weirdo.
Yeah, they play it up that he's a weird artist.
He tells her to draw on her darkest impulses for this scene. "Take control of your story," he insists. Of course, she's not read the script. She's not an actress. We don't know what happened to the real actress. She's just there.
Mm-hmm.
Soon, we see Enid playing out the role from Don't Go in the Church, where she grabs the axe and goes inside. This time, the Beast Man is in there waiting for her. He's appeared in several of her dreams. He's a big, scary-looking guy. They embrace. The Beast Man tells her to let it out. And Enid kills him as he screams, "This was not in the script!"
Yeah, there's some crossover here. And the director is like, WTF?
You weren't supposed to really kill him. It's a movie, you know. Frederick loses his head next, and Enid chases Alice out into the woods. Alice says Enid isn't her sister and that Enid is insane. There's a bright white light, and the real Nina walks out of the clouds. Meanwhile, the whole shot is still framed as if it's still part of Frederick's film, so we suspect this isn't quite real. The two girls get in the car and drive home to their parents' house, and there's a completely, perfectly, over-the-top, you might even say, insanely happy ending.
Crazy, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I thought this was
real?
crazy good.
Yeah. Well, the whole censorship thing, along with the mention of video nasties, brings up the age-old question of whether horror movies and depictions of torture and violence are evil or necessary. What do you think?
I think they're not evil, and they are necessary.
Okay. Of course we think they are. Well, Kevin does anyway. But there are plenty of people out there who don't appreciate a good beheading. Do horror films really cause copycat killings? Yeah, probably. Would those deaths happen anyway? Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
The acting here is all good, but it seems a little slow getting started. Half of the research plot, the middle of the movie, would have been removed if IMDb had existed at this point.
Yeah.
Enid's descent into insanity feels natural and realistic considering her situation. It's a little slow and a little weird, but the ending is just perfect. Which takes us to our short film this week. Are you taking your shirt off?
I'm taking my skin off.
Oh my.
Can't get more romantic than that, can you?
Well, maybe not. Our short film this week is called He Took His Skin Off For Me from 2021. Directed by Ben Aston, written by Maria Hummer and Ben Aston, stars Sebastian Armesto and Anna Maguire, 11 minutes, 20 seconds, and we got a link so you can watch it on YouTube.
And boy, this was good.
You liked it?
I did, yeah.
A lot of nudity in this one.
Yeah, as naked as you can get.
More naked than you can get. All right, so a man asks his girlfriend, "Would you like me to take my skin off?" To which she replies, "Yeah." And just like that, he does it. He's red and juicy with all the muscles showing. "I could see everything. He's beautiful," says the woman. They then have sex, of course, but he's a bit more naked than she is.
Yeah, so it's kind of almost a fairy tale
Fairy
feel
tale
to it.
kind of thing, yeah.
Yeah.
This could never really happen, but the music and the way she's telling it is very fairy tale-like.
Yeah.
But there are problems. Every morning the sheets were bloody and needed washing, not to mention the bloody hand and footprints everywhere.
So much time cleaning.
He's always cold, and there's blood everywhere. He's having a trouble at work with clients, which is unsurprising.
Not surprising.
And then she starts pinching at her own skin. Where is this leading?
Mm-hmm.
Tune in and find out.
And I like how they really did it skillfully as time goes on and the relationship starts crumbling.
Things go badly.
The place starts getting less tidy, too.
Uh-huh.
At first, she's meticulous about cleaning up.
Uh-huh.
And then you see little smears here and there, more and more. Smears on the wall and the clothes and the furniture and stuff. And, It's really, really good progression. Yeah.
Well, this looks excellent. The body makeup is excellent here, matching or exceeding Frank from Hellraiser. Yeah, I was pretty impressed with Frank from Hellraisers. He's red and juicy and drippy and bloody and muscly and if you peeled your skin off, that looks about right.
They did a great job with this guy's makeup.
This looked really good too, especially for a little.
And in bright lighting. A lot of Frank's was in the dark and shadowy.
This is a very brightly lit movie. Yeah. There's a lot of clever little details here, like the body-shaped outline on the sofa and the skid marks on the stairway railing. The narrator gives the whole thing a fairy tale feeling, but the couple's emotional decline into more and more unhappiness is definitely not a fairy tale.
And he looks longingly at his skin hanging in the closet.
Oh, yeah. He goes over and touches it and plays with his hands sometimes.
Yeah.
Was the ending happy? I'm not quite sure.
I'm not going to say. Decide for yourself.
Yeah. Speaking of happy endings, we've got Invasion of the Body Snatchers from 1956.
And spoiler, the original had a happy ending.
Sort of. Yeah, it did, didn't it? Sort of.
Happier.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of...
Not quite as bad as the second one.
It wasn't world ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right, so this is the one from 1956, directed by Don Siegel, written by Daniel Manwaring and Jack Finney. Stars Kevin McCarthy, Dana Winter, Larry Gates, hour and 20 minutes, and there's a link for more information in the show notes. What'd you think?
I liked it.
I did too.
Thought it's classic.
Like I said, I'd seen the remake a couple of times, and it was all right. I liked it okay, but maybe I like this one better.
Oh, see, I like the remake
I
better.
tend to like the simplicity of older story. I like the ones from the 30s, 40s, and 50s.
Simpler?
Yeah.
Simpler times.
Simpler, yeah. Comfort food.
Yeah.
All right, so what happens?
Well, there's this guy. Yeah. Well, it starts out actually. The whole movie's a flashback, which I had forgotten about. Basically, most of it is in flashback.
Yeah, he's explaining the story.
The police come to the hospital, and they seem to have a madman on their hands at the hospital. He says he is Dr. Miles Bennell, and he claims he's not insane, and has he got a story to tell?
They always claim they're not insane. I'm not crazy,
Mm-hmm.
but...
Well, Miles had been out of town for a medical convention, and now he's back, and things seem different. Nurse Sally, his right-hand associate, says now they have a whole room full of patients waiting for his return. None of them want to talk about what's wrong with them. None of them will go see the doctor in the next town. When he arrives at the office, most of the patients have canceled. And now they all say it was nothing important.
I feel much better now.
Yes, it was nothing, yeah. Well, Becky, who has been out of the country for 5 years, comes in, says that her cousin Wilma thinks that her Uncle Ira isn't really Uncle Ira.
What?
Little Jimmy Grimaldi says his mother isn't his mother. Well, Nurse Sally calls the boy's mother. Wilma still insists that Ira isn't the same. She can't explain it. He looks the same, has the same memories, but something is missing. He has no emotions. And on that point, I'm going to pause and give a bit of critique, complaint about this. They didn't seem flat enough. The people. No. They seemed very emotional. I thought in the remake they were more emotionless. Even in the remake, a little bit, But to be Vulcan-like or whatever, no emotions.
Yeah, I was just going to say Mr. Spock-like or robotic-like, but they really weren't.
They weren't that
maybe
much,
they
yeah.
have lost some of their personality, and people can tell that. But to say that they had no emotion doesn't seem quite accurate.
Yeah, and when they go to see Uncle Ira, and he's mowing the lawn, and he's smoking his pipe, and he's, hey, how you doing? And I mean, nothing seems that odd,
Yeah.
Well, anyway. Miles and Becky run into Dr. Kaufman, the town psychiatrist. He's got a dozen cases, just like the ones Miles describes. They go to the club and are surprised to see that nobody's there. They get a call from Jack Belisic, who takes them to his house and shows Miles a body. And he looks like a man, but he's not fully formed. There's no fingerprints. It's the same size and weight as Jack. Well, Miles tells Jack to sit with the thing all night, see what happens. Later that night, it wakes up and has even grown a cut where Jack had been injured. Well, Miles starts to put things together and gets a little freaked out, hurries back to Becky's house, breaks into the basement, and he finds a half duplicate of Becky down there. The real Becky won't wake up, so he carries her out and carries her away. Miles, Jack, and Kaufman go back to Jack's, and the duplicate is gone. When they go back, Becky's double is gone too. And the police chief says he knows all about it. He's already found some dead bodies, whatever, case closed. So the police have already been assimilated. Yeah. Well, Wilma tells Miles that she's feeling much better now. She must have been all wrong. So she doesn't need to see the psychiatrist after all.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Wilma reports to Becky's father that Becky is now staying at Miles' house. Jimmy Grimaldi makes up with his mother. I guess I was wrong. She is my mother. Yeah.
All these problems just go away.
Yeah, in a day or so. Yeah. Well, Miles goes home and sees a weird frothy pod in his greenhouse, gives birth to little humanoid blanks. which the blanks that will grow into full-grown duplicates and replace the original person.
I want to know the science behind how this works.
Mm-hmm.
Do the pods seem to be planted near where somebody needs to be converted? Are they intended at that point for that person? Or do they just come out generic and bond with the nearest? Do they have to be touched? Do they have to just
in
be near?
this one, it's less clear. I think in the remake, it's more clear that they're generic and they actually.
Well, in the remake, you
physical,
see Donald Sutherland coming out
contact.
of the pod. It's clearly him.
Physical contact.
Yeah, these things come out very blank and generic, and later they form.
Later they form. Yeah. But there doesn't seem to be physical contact required.
Yeah.
Well, Miles tries to call the FBI, and his call won't go through. Now, what's caused this? Mutations, aliens, an atomic radiation experiment? No.
Everything in the 50s was atomic radiation experiments.
Oh, yeah. Well, Jack and his wife get into the car and try to leave, while Miles and Becky leave a little later. The man in the gas station opens their trunk for some reason, and they find out it's a pair of pods that he has snuck in there. Yeah. Miles tries to rescue Nurse Sally, but it's an ambush, and the police put an APB out on him. Well, the next morning, the entire town converges in the square, and trucks drive in carrying hundreds of pods. They are distributing pods to the people who already haven't been converted. This thing is going to spread to the entire country. Jack and Dr. Kaufman come in. They've been converted. They say it's not so bad, you'll be okay with it. Kaufman explains that the seeds came from outer space and took root in nearby farmers' fields. He explains everything. Once they go to sleep, it'll all be over. So Miles drugs the others. They were going to put them to sleep, and instead he shoots them up. So they're so susceptible to drugs.
Never mess with a doctor in his office.
Yeah. And they run to the countryside with the whole town chasing them on foot. And they run into an old mine shaft and hide under the floor. They get away, but Becky can't stay awake because it's been so long. Well, they stumble across a pod farm where men load pods into trucks for distribution. Becky goes to sleep and changes.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Miles finally makes it to the highway, but everyone just thinks he's crazy drunk, yelling, "You're next! You're next!" This takes us back to the framing story. Well, the detectives believe Miles' story, and he works to stop the invasion. So they mobilize and...
They didn't get the whole world because of his warning.
Yep. Happy ending.
Well, I like the idea that they don't spend too much time on the "is this real" aspect. If this was today, people wouldn't believe it, and you spend half the movie convincing the main character that, yeah, it's real.
Mm-hmm.
They go straight into the "I can't trust anyone" stage right away. Well, the whole thing is surprisingly fast-moving, with lots of characters and no doubt as to what's really going on. Everything is clear. They actually do explain the origin of the pods and exactly what happens when you're converted. It had a large cast and lots of extras, so it really did look like the whole town was after them. The special effects consisted of covering dummies with soap bubbles.
But it was effective.
But it was all that was needed.
Yeah.
The pod people have no emotions, but otherwise they don't seem so bad. You gotta wonder if maybe they had the right idea and who the bad guys really are. Maybe they were just coming to help the humans.
Yeah.
Straighten out that messed up world.
Uh-huh.
There's not a lot of vagueness about who's good and evil in this film, but if only they did a remake, they could maybe look at this idea a little more closely.
If they did a remake.
This film needs a remake.
Uh-huh.
There's a bit of inconsistency as to whether people are replaced or taken over by the pods. We clearly see the pods growing new bodies, but Miles said they take over bodies, which is supported by what happened to Becky.
Yeah,
we never see any corpses. What happens to the humans
is
here?
a little bit more ambiguous there.
You know, probably you couldn't have all these dead people laying all over town or dissolving into dust or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They just leave it open-ended.
Yeah. But it's a good one. Surprisingly good for 1956.
Yep, black and white, but that's okay.
Yeah, but somebody later on decided, this film would be better in color.
Yeah.
With a little more violence and drama.
In the late 70s. Yeah.
1978, directed by Philip Kaufman. Written by W.D. Richter and Jack Finney.
And what a cast.
Donald Sutherland, Brooke Adams, and Jeff Goldblum, and Leonard Nimoy.
Uh-huh. And Veronica Cartwright. And who's the other main girl? I can't ever remember her name. Not Karen Allen. She always reminds me of Karen Allen.
Brooke Adams.
Okay.
I said her.
Oh, you said her. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're right. She very much, the name doesn't ring any bells for me, but she was in lots of things, and she always looked like somebody else.
I always confuse her with Karen Allen,
Yeah.
and I have to remember, no, that's not her.
1 hour, 55 minutes. And which one did you like better?
I liked the remake better.
Okay.
Yeah, I did.
I think the remake actually is maybe a little too long. It drags in places. I like the first one better, I think. Although color adds a lot to everything.
It does, yeah, and the updated special effects.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, we begin on an alien planet with strange smoke and gases swirling. Some of the strange material floats off into space towards Earth. Credits roll.
So there's no doubt right off the bat where it comes from.
Yeah, this alien planet. I guess this stuff just floats through the universe, and it could be on hundreds and hundreds of worlds.
Yeah.
Well, we see some slimy-looking plants in the downtown areas of various cities. Something grows out of the slime. Something with tendrils and budding pods. Matthew Bennell, with the Department of Health, inspects restaurants for bad things. He finds a rat turd in the fancy French restaurant, and he dares the manager to eat it.
It's a caper, says the manager.
Rat turd.
Okay, you eat it then. And he doesn't.
He gets really excited over the rat turd, like it's going to make his career. Yeah, really, you got to find things like that all the time, I'd imagine.
Oh, yeah.
Matthew calls Elizabeth and wants her to come into work early. Elizabeth lives with Jeffrey Howell, a dentist. Elizabeth picked one of the funny pod plants earlier in the day, and they go to sleep with one right next to the bed.
Uh-oh.
In the morning, the plant's container is broken, and Jeffrey doesn't talk very much. Elizabeth is freaked out by his weird behavior. Jeffrey is not Jeffrey, she says. Matthew suggests going to see Dr. Kibner, his psychiatrist friend. Elizabeth does a weird trick with her eyes, which amuses Matthew. And does that come up ever again? I kind of thought that would be like a test. Can you do the eye thing?
Can you do the eye thing? No, it doesn't.
No, it never comes up
It's
again.
not Chekhov's eye trick.
Yeah,
No.
it seemed like it should have been.
Yeah, it could have been.
Well, he goes to the Chinese laundry, and the man there wants his help. My wife, she wrong, different. That not my wife, he complains. He says just like that, too.
And he does, yeah. Yeah.
Matthew isn't a doctor, so he doesn't do anything. As he leaves, he notices the garbage man trashing some weird fibery thing in the garbage truck. We saw the same fibers in the garbage when Jeffrey threw out the remains of his plant. Elizabeth notices that people seem to be looking at each other funny, like they're passing messages to each other without speaking. They all seem to know each other. She thinks it's some kind of big conspiracy.
And we do get glimpses of that as they show the crowd on the street and, various people standing around.
Yep. Yeah, she's not wrong.
Looking at each other. Yeah. She's not wrong, and she notices,
She followed Jeffrey all over town and watched as people passed packages back and forth all day. She feels like the whole city was different. A crazy-looking man comes and beats on their windshield. He looks suspiciously like Miles from the original film.
Yeah,
and it is, of course, Kevin McCarthy.
Homage, yeah.
Yeah. 20-something
You're
years
next.
older.
Yeah, recreating that scene.
The very same scene, yes.
Yeah, that was
You're
pretty.
next.
That
You're
was pretty
next.
awesome.
But this time he gets hit by a car and killed.
Mm-hmm.
No happy ending for him. Dr. Kibner is working with a woman who says her husband isn't her husband. He tells Elizabeth to wait her turn. Kibner convinces the woman to go home with her husband. And Kibner admits he's heard the same story a dozen times this week, but it always goes away after a day or two.
Strange.
I'm feeling much better now.
Yeah, it was just my imagination. I feel much better. And now, and I think they did a better job in this one of the people being flatter, less emotional.
Yeah.
Not rattled or upset or horrified by anything.
Well, in 1956, what does it mean to have no emotions? Mr. Spock and Data hadn't been invented yet.
Yeah.
We also meet Jack Belichick, an annoying writer, at Dr. Kibner's party. Man, that guy, if you ever wanted to slap somebody, he'd be the one. He is annoying.
Yeah.
His wife runs a mud bath spa. She talks about how music stimulates plant growth, and then she finds a man covered in slime and tendrils. They call Matthew and show him the body. It's only half form and has no fingerprints. It looks like Jack, and suddenly Jack is really, really sleepy. Realizing that Elizabeth has been right all along, Matthew calls her, but it's too late. Jeffrey has gotten to her first. Jack calls Kibner to come over and see the thing, but first he takes a nap. Matthew goes after Elizabeth and breaks into her house. He finds faux Elizabeth, almost fully grown, and the real one sleeping nearby. He grabs the real one and runs out of the house. Meanwhile, Kibner doesn't find anything unusual at the spa, and Jack's wife looks out the open window just in time to see the garbage truck closing on some fibrous materials. Elizabeth explains it all to Kibner, who doesn't buy any of it. Kibner leaves, and we see that he's in on it already. Oh.
And it's interesting with his character. It was hard to tell at what point was he assimilated.
We don't know.
Because he was so, at the initial scene, people being very hysterical and upset with him, and, very professional and calm and, analytical. Was he then even?
It's Leonard Nimoy, Mr. Emotionless.
Yeah.
He can do that.
He's had a lot of practice as Spock. Yeah,
but and he's a psychiatrist, so he's going to be the rational,
when he was still normal, he was perfectly calm and rational, and it was hard to tell what point was he assimilated.
He may have been that way all along. He may have gotten it right there at the spa. We don't know.
Yeah.
Elizabeth and Nancy come to the conclusion that little flower pods they found are causing all of this. Matthew and Elizabeth try to get the others to help them, but it looks like everyone else is already against them. Even the people who said others weren't themselves have recanted their stories. Even the radio news stops playing. They all go home and start to sleep. A tiny pod touches Matthew and soon grows into a duplicate of him. They get you when you sleep. He calls the police, and they know his name already. The police and everyone comes after them, but the four run away. They walk down the street and try to blend in. They grab a cab to the airport. The driver turns them in, but they get away just in time. They tumble over a pod in the process of copying a homeless man sleeping next to his dog. We see the homeless man in an earlier scene and his dog, too.
Something I just noticed, too? Don Siegel, who was the director of Invasion of the Body Snatchers, the original.
The original, yeah.
He's the taxi driver in the remake.
I did not notice that. I wouldn't know him if I saw him, but okay.
IMDb is good for this sort of thing.
Well, that night, they watch all the converted people, each carrying a pod to take to some innocent, unconverted person. Jack, Jeffrey, and Kibner come in, and they've all been converted. They explain how wonderful it is to be changed. All their memories are kept, but there's no hate, love, anxiety, or other troublesome emotions. Kibner gives them both a sedative to make them sleep. "People will fight you, David," says Matthew. "In an hour, you won't want them to," Kibner explains. They kill Jack and lock Kibner in the freezer to escape. They catch up with Nancy on the way out, and she's still okay. She's been fooling the converted. They run into a dog with the homeless man's face. Something went wrong there.
Yeah, and I totally did not catch the first time I saw it that it was that scene where they showed the conversion happening. Yeah, and somehow the pod mixed up and combined the two of them into one.
Yeah, we see the homeless man and his dog early on doing, happy stuff.
I thought that it was just something that these pods had created to screen out.
Because they kicked them or tripped over them or something and merged them somehow.
Yeah, they messed it up. Yeah, but
I want to see the dog.
But it causes an emotional. It's so gross and horrifying that it causes an emotional reaction. And she screams and gives away. And I thought this was something they created on purpose to screen out in people, that might be impersonating. But that wasn't
okay.
Yeah, but
I think it's just
wasn't
a freak
the case.
accident.
Yeah, it was just an accident.
But she does see the weird human-faced dog and screams, which lets everybody in the area know that she's not one of us.
She's not one of us.
They hide in a semi-truck that's being loaded with more pods. They walk through a factory where they grow the pods, and Elizabeth gets injured and can't run anymore. They hear ships, and Matthew goes to the shipyard to find a way to get away from the city. He finds that they're loading pods into the ship by the thousands. Nowhere is going to be safe. He goes back to Elizabeth, but it's too late. Her body is already decomposing into a husk that collapses when he picks her up.
And that's a horrifying scene. And
Yeah.
Donald Sutherland's reaction to that. Boy.
That's where all that fibery stuff was coming from.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe of, think of, top 100 horrifying scenes in horror movies. I think that's one of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, the new Elizabeth sits up and tells him to join them, and he runs. Matthew grabs an axe and knocks the lights down, causing a fire at the pod factory. He narrowly escapes and causes the factory to burn. Morning comes, and Matthew is practicing fitting in with the others. They can't tell. He even goes back to work and does his regular job. Nancy catches up with him, and he does the alien scream thing. Oh, he wasn't faking it. He's been turned.
He has been, yeah.
No escape. No happy ending in this one.
Not for him.
All right, well, I guess Jeff Goldblum really has played the exact same annoying character in every film of his career.
I think he just learns his lines and shows up.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. You want to act? No, I'll just be me.
Yeah, I'll just show up.
Has Veronica Cartwright ever been in a movie and not ended up screaming?
Oh, I don't know.
You talk about scream queens. She's up there.
Yeah. She's always good, but yeah, yeah.
Unlike the first
Witches of
film.
Eastwick, Alien, Scary Movie, The Birds. I mean, all the, yeah.
We need somebody to be really scared.
Yeah.
I know, just the person.
Yeah.
Well, unlike the first one, this one does drag in a few places. It spends more time on character development and situational humor than the original, like the rat turd. But in the process, it slows down the action quite a bit. The plot is actually almost exactly the same as the earlier film, but there's so much added detail that it's still entertaining. It's a bit more realistic feeling than the original, and of course it's in color, so there's that. The scene where Matthew goes to sleep and the 4 pods open around him is really well done.
Yeah, that was.
As is the twist at the end where he isn't who we thought he was.
Mm-hmm.
Both versions of the film are really good. Each one is better in its own way. If you're looking for a fast-paced, scary movie, go with the original. If you want a more angsty, gritty, realistic take, go with the second. But they're all good.
Yes, they are.
Everything this week has been a winner, which is rare. We need to watch something crappy next week.
Yeah, something we can really rip apart. Wait, you've got one coming
We've got
up.
maybe 2. Tune in next week where we've got 4 more horror films for you. We're going to watch Return of the Living Dead from 1985.
I saw that when it came out.
I didn't. I saw it
loved
later.
it.
I saw this on
loved it.
videotape with the censorship and all that.
Okay.
But it's a good, it's the one with the punkers, the punk people in the cemetery and the mortuary.
Yep.
More humor than monster.
Definitely humor. Yeah.
Rosemary's Baby from 1968.
Classic.
No humor whatsoever in that one.
Ooh, pretty grim.
And a couple of brand new films, The Boy Behind the Door and Lucky, both from 2021. All right. Looking forward to tearing up at least one of those movies.
Yes, you are.
All right. I'm Brian.
And I'm Kevin.
And we'll see you next week.
See ya.